You know that feeling when you check your bank app on a Thursday morning right before payday? That knot in your stomach. You're mentally calculating if the $22.40 sitting in checking is going to cover gas and maybe a terrible sandwich to get you through the rest of the week. You are just trying to keep your head above water until the direct deposit hits. And when it finally does, boom, you breathe, you pay the rent, you pay the credit card minimums, you buy groceries, and suddenly you are right back to waiting. You are entirely trapped in the cycle of working for your first $1,000 over and over and over again every single month. And look, most people think the reason they feel broke is because they just aren't making $1 million. They think the anxiety disappears when the salary hits six figures. But the math proves it is actually the exact opposite. The anxiety doesn't disappear when you make more money. It disappears when you fundamentally change your relationship with your very first $1,000. Because right now, your money is your master. You are selling off pieces of your limited lifespan just to keep the lights on. But there is a mathematical tipping point, a very specific moment where the physics of your wealth completely flip upside down. I'm Heisenbank, and today we are looking at the brutal, unvarnished truth about why you were stuck, and more importantly, I am going to show you the exact numbers that prove how everything in your life, your stress, your career, your literal brain chemistry, changes the second you stop working for that $1,000 and force it to start working for you. By the time we finish here, you won't just look at your bank account differently, you are going to look at your entire Tuesday morning differently. So let's get into it. The hardest money you will ever make is your first $1,000 of surplus, not your salary, surplus, the money that just sits there, the money that doesn't have a job yet. Why? Because when you are starting from zero, you are fighting the financial equivalent of gravity. Everything costs more when you are poor. It is a documented psychological and economic phenomenon called the poverty tax. I mean, think about it. If you have $10,000 in the bank and your car gets a flat tire, what happens? You're annoyed, you spend $200, you get a new tire, and you go to work. It's a mild inconvenience. But if you have $40 in the bank and you get a flat tire, it is a full-blown crisis. You can't afford the tire, so you can't drive to work, so you lose your shift, so your paycheck is light, so you miss your rent payment. Now you have a late fee. That one flat tire just cost you $500 you don't have. This is what I mean by gravity. When you are constantly working to just scrape together your first $1,000, your brain is drowning in cortisol. That is the stress hormone. And behavioral science shows us that when you are operating under high cortisol, your peripheral vision literally narrows. You are in fight or flight mode. You cannot plan for a retirement that is 30 years away when you are terrified of a Tuesday. You make desperate decisions, you take on bad debt, you agree to work for a boss who treats you terribly because you literally cannot afford to quit. You are trapped in survival mode. But once you secure that first true $1,000 of capital, capital that is yours to deploy, the gravity breaks. So let us talk about the math, because I don't care about your feelings, I care about your numbers. When you work for money, your income is tied linearly to your time. You work 1 hour, you get $20. You want $40, you have to work 2 hours. Your earning potential has a hard physical ceiling because you only have 24 hours in a day, and eventually you have to sleep. This is labor. Labor is a terrible way to get wealthy. Now, let us flip the script. Let us say you finally break the cycle. You save up and invest $1,000 a month. And let us say you get a very standard, historically average return of 8% a year in the market. I want you to really listen to these numbers. In year one, you put in $12,000 of your own hard-earned sweat. The market gives you back maybe $500 in interest. Big deal, right? $500. You could make that driving an Uber on the weekends. It feels pathetic. It feels slow. But you keep doing it. Fast forward to year 10. You have put in $120,000 of your own money, but your account balance is now around $184,000. That means your money just generated over $14,000 in a single year entirely on its own. Your money just got a minimum wage job. It is literally out there in the economy, wearing a little hard hat, flipping burgers, and handing you the paycheck. And it doesn't sleep. It doesn't ask for paid time off. Now let us go to year 20. You are still just putting in that same $1,000 a month. By year 20, you have contributed $240,000 total. But your portfolio? It's sitting at nearly $600,000. And here's the magic trick. Here is the exact moment everything changes. In year 20, at an 8% return, your portfolio is generating over $45,000 a year in interest. Read that again, $45,000. You were only contributing $12,000 a year from your labor, but your money is printing $45,000 a year from its own existence. Your capital is now out-earning your calories. The money is working 4 times harder than you are. This is the mathematical concept of escape velocity. You are no longer working for the $1,000. The thousands are violently multiplying themselves. Hey, quick pause. If you are actually sitting here running these numbers in your head and realizing that the system has been playing you for a fool, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button down below. We don't do fake hype here. We use cold, hard math to break down how money actually works so you can buy your freedom back. Stick around, it gets deeper. So if the math is that obvious, why doesn't everyone do it? Why do we stay stuck working for that initial 1,000? Because your brain is actively sabotaging you. Seriously, it is biology. You see, human beings did not evolve to understand compound interest. For 99.9% of human history, we were hunter-gatherers. If you found a bush full of berries, you ate all the berries right then, because if you tried to save the berries for next month, they would rot, or a bear would eat them, or your neighbor would steal them. We are hardwired for immediate consumption. We are literally addicted to immediate dopamine hits. When you get paid on Friday and you immediately go buy a new pair of shoes or finance a car you don't need, your brain floods with dopamine. You feel successful. You feel like you secured the kill. But investing, taking your hard-earned $1,000 and locking it away in an index fund that you can't touch for 20 years, to your primitive lizard brain, that feels like starvation. It feels like throwing your berries into a black hole. There is no dopamine hit. There is no immediate status flex. You don't get to drive an index fund around the neighborhood to make your friends jealous. So what do? We prioritize looking rich today over actually being wealthy tomorrow. We sign up for a $700 a month car payment. We inflate our lifestyle the exact second we get a raise at work, which means our expenses always perfectly match our income, leaving our surplus at zero. And as long as your surplus is zero, you will always be a slave to the system. As long as your surplus is zero, you will always be a slave to the next paycheck. You will always be working for that next $1,000. Once you get past that initial friction, once you build up a pool of investments, you stop viewing money as a tool to buy things. You start viewing money as a tool to buy time. And this is the biggest psychological shift between the working class and the wealthy. The working class trades time to get money. The wealthy use money to buy back their time. Let us say you have $100,000 invested, and it's generating $8,000 a year in passive growth. What is that $8,000? Is it a vacation? Is it a Rolex? No. If your monthly living expenses are $4,000, that $8,000 in yield just bought you 2 entire months of freedom. That is 2 months where you literally do not have to sell your labor to survive. You didn't buy a watch, you bought your own October and November. When you understand this, you become obsessed. You stop looking at a restaurant menu and seeing a $50 steak. You start seeing that steak as hours of your life you have to spend chained to a desk. You start asking yourself, is this momentary dopamine hit worth surrendering my Tuesday morning? And usually the answer is no. How do they walk into a salary negotiation? They don't beg. They don't sweat. If the company lowballs them, they just smile and walk away because they don't need the money today. They have leverage. When you stop desperately chasing that first $1,000, your risk tolerance completely changes. You can afford to start that side business. You can afford to fail. You can afford to wait for the perfect opportunity instead of jumping at the first mediocre job offer out of sheer panic. You transition from playing defense to playing offense. You are no longer reacting to life. You are dictating the terms. So here's the brutal truth. Getting to that point is going to suck. Breaking the cycle and clawing together your first $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 of surplus is going to require you to live in a way that most people will make fun of. Your friends will call you cheap. They will ask why you drive a beaten-up Honda Civic when you just got a promotion. They will wonder why you aren't out at the bar every weekend blowing money on overpriced drinks. Let them laugh, because in 10 years, they will still be complaining about their boss, terrified of a layoff, completely dependent on the next direct deposit, and you will be the bank. You have to make a choice right now about who you want to be. You can keep trading your precious non-renewable lifespan for a handful of dollars that you immediately hand over to a landlord and a credit card company, or you can suffer the discipline of keeping your money, investing it, and letting it do the heavy lifting for you. I'll leave you with this thought. A brilliant investor once said, "Wealth is just the unspent portion of your income. It is the options you have not yet exercised." Stop exercising all your options today. Save them, let them grow, and eventually use them to buy your life back. I am Heisenbank. See you on the next one.